Hey Waffle Gang, I do hope you're well. My name is Mark and today we're checking out some more Reddit stories, and if you do love a Reddit story, why not consider hitting that like, subscribe, maybe that notification bell too, and let's crack on with today's first story. Much love, guys. Now today's first story comes from Artistic Contact 338 from the Am I the Arsehole Here subreddit that says, Am I the arsehole for not letting my ex-husband's new girlfriend have a piece of his mother's jewellery? Throw away because family follows my main. I, 40 female, and my ex, we call him Joe, 41 male, were high school sweethearts. Started dating when we were 17, married at 19, and divorced 20 years later. So going on 2 years now. We have an amazing daughter, Sarah, who is 8, and has adjusted really well to the separation. Joe and I get along great. The divorce was amicable and we're still good friends. Not like we hang out alone or anything, but we don't argue or fuss at each other, help each other out, and just overall have each other's backs, because at the end of the day, our number one priority will always be Sarah and doing what's best for her. We've both moved on and are in serious long-term relationships with other people. His girlfriend Lily, 46 female, is great and really good for him. I've never had any conflict with her and enjoy spending time with her when we get together for holidays and other important events or celebrations. Until last week. Joe's parents passed away within a month of each other last summer, and it was devastating for all of us. Even though Joe and I had already been divorced for about a year, he still treated me like family, and I loved them dearly. Joe and Lily hadn't started dating yet, so she never met them, which is a shame. They're incredible people. Long story to get to the point, but I feel like the background is important. Last week, Sarah got a box in the mail from her aunt, who's responsible for dividing up my late mother-in-law's jewellery amongst the kids and grandkids. She had a huge collection of both costume and more expensive fine jewellery. I let Joe know about it, and he explained that some of it was left to me. So when he would come over, and we sort through it together. Lily came with him, which was fine. It was extremely difficult, and we were both very emotional. So I'm glad she was there to support him. Here's where I think I may be the arsehole. As we're going through the jewellery, we had pulled out a couple of cheaper pieces of costume jewellery for Sarah to have now, and I picked out a couple of rings, a necklace, and 3 pairs of earrings to keep, knowing they will eventually go to Sarah as well. Joe and I agreed that the rest of it would be put away in a lockbox that we each have a key to at my house, and would stay there until Sarah is older and it goes to her. One of the pieces being put away is a beautiful set of ruby and diamond earrings, and necklace that are obviously very real, and we believe were passed down from Joe's grandmother. Lily had been admiring the set and making comments about how well it would go with the wedding dress she'd been looking at. They aren't engaged, or even with some of her date night outfits. Joe didn't say anything to her in response, and when she put them down, I wrapped them back up and put them along with the rest of the jewellery in the lockbox. Since then, Lily has texted me multiple times asking about them and if she can just borrow them. At one point she accused me of just wanting them for myself and pointed out that Joe and I were divorced and I didn't have any right to keep them. She has also said that when they get married, the jewellery will legally be a part of their marital assets anyway, so I'm just putting off the inevitable. I'm not planning on wearing them, per my agreement with Joe. I'll wear the pieces I picked out and the rest will stay put away for Sarah. I have zero intention of taking any of it out unless it's necessary. And even then, I'll let Joe know what's going on with it. Joe has been radio silent and I haven't said anything because I don't want to cause any conflict that could have an impact on Sarah. So, am I the arsehole for not giving in and letting Lily have some of the jewellery meant for my daughter? That's giving me red flags all over. The fact that you was having this moment where you was going through this box together. You said yourself it was very difficult and emotional moment, which I can only imagine it was. And then Lily just starts coming out with how it'd go well with her wedding dress and some of her date night outfits. I mean, come on, fucking read the room, gee whiz. I'm just getting those greedy little vibes from this person to be talking about it in that moment. Following up with it as well, saying, one day they're going to be marital assets anyway. She's willing to take these from your daughter. I think this warrants a conversation with Joe. Obviously approaching this delicately as possible so you don't come across as you're attacking, because then, it could just cause conflict. But I think Joe deserves to know what's going on here. But Lady Salamander said to the OP, not the arsehole, jewellery handed down to your daughter from her grandmother never belonged to her father, so it won't ever be a part of the marital assets. The jewellery isn't even yours to give or lend, it's your daughter's now. Another commenter says I suggest that you put a note on the outside of the box stating that the contents of the box belonged to Sarah and that she inherited the contents from her grandmother X. If something unfortunate should happen, there is no doubt that the jewellery belongs to your daughter. If the girlfriend continues to harass you, I think you should forward the texts and emails to your ex. Numerous cover says, I would also take photos of every piece of jewellery, from the costume to the real stuff, and make an itemized list of every single item. In fact, it might be a good idea to have both you and Joe sign a document referring to the attached photos and list, stipulating the jewellery belongs to Sarah and was a gift from her grandmother. Wasting time says, and get them insured. I'm not sure how it works since Sarah is so young, but if you put the policy in her name with you as custodian, that would be ideal. Mega says, safe deposit boxes aren't expensive and there's no way they can be stolen by snoopers. Novel says, she's a pushy thing, isn't she? It is a big red flag, and I hope your ex sees it as such. The greed is really disgusting. Blazing Sunflower Land says, she's willing to steal from a child. I hope the ex takes note. So, OP came in with an update some days later and says, update. So many of you asked for an update, so here it is really quick. I wrote this out yesterday and figured out that it was probably better to make a new post and edit the other one with it. So yeah, here's what's going on. Joe took an extended lunch yesterday and came by the house without Lily. I explained to him why I was reluctant to bring everything up, but I was tired of being harassed about the jewellery and I feel strongly about it belonging to Sarah. Not to either of us and certainly not to Lily. He agreed immediately and was shocked to find out she'd been asking about it and then angry when I showed him the messages. I figured the best course of action was a face-to-face conversation with him and being able to hand him my phone so he could see the conversation for himself, and there would be no way for her to accuse me of making it up or photoshopping anything. It sucked to see him so upset over it, and I have a feeling that it's going to get worse because from what he was saying, it sounds like Lily won't be around much longer, and regardless, she won't be allowed back in my home and won't be spending any time with Sarah alone if he doesn't break up with her. I did also go first thing yesterday morning and open a safe deposit box at one of the local banks. It's not the one I normally do business with, and as of right now, my name is the only one on it, and I have the only key. I was worried about the possibility of Lily having any kind of access to the jewellery with it being in the house, and until all of that is resolved, I feel better knowing that there's no way for her to get to it. Joe and I also discussed this when he came over. He said he agrees completely that it's the best course of action to safeguard Sarah's inheritance. All but one of the pieces I picked out also went in, and as much as I would love to have a couple of the other pieces to wear in remembrance of her on the really hard days, I'd rather know it's safe, and I still have the one piece that brings me so much comfort. All kinds of notarized documents will be on their way to me, and should be here by the end of the week, when I have a meeting to set up with a lawyer to determine what else needs to be done to ensure that the jewellery would go to Sarah without any issues or challenges. I spoke to the aunt that sent everything over the weekend I posted this and got so much good advice. Thank you all, and requested she send copies of everything pertaining to it along with documentation from her as the executor of what was sent to who, etc. I didn't tell her about the issues with Lily. I don't think that's my place. I'll let Joe deal with telling his family or not as he sees fit. I have an appointment later today with a GIA certified appraiser, so I should be able to take all of that with me to the lawyer, as well as the pictures and videos that I took of each piece last night. I'm still leaning towards a trust as the best way to make sure Sarah's interests and assets are protected, but we'll see what the lawyer says and go from there. I feel terrible for Joe. He's a great guy, and even though our marriage did not work out, I still care about him and always will. He's not just my child's father, but also one of my best friends, and I want him to find someone to be with that loves him the way he deserves to be loved. It's just that whoever that is needs to understand that Sarah is always going to come first, and he and I will always work as a team to make sure that she's happy, healthy, and successful in life. Our relationships with each other and other people aren't going to hinder her in any way. Thank you to everyone that commented and offered so much good advice and support. I really do appreciate all of it more than I can tell you. I didn't expect this to blow up the way it did, and it's really overwhelming to be honest. I probably won't update anymore or add anything else to this, so thank you again. And look, I'm extremely sorry that Joe has lost his relationship over this, but this was caused by her actions, and it's something that probably would have come up in another way at some point down the line. But I also want to say, what an amazing team these both sound like. Always prioritizing their child over whatever is in front of them. And I think that's absolutely wonderful. And I think that's just wonderful for Sarah. But now I'm going to turn this one to you guys. What do you guys make of this situation? Let us know your thoughts down in the comments below. And let's move on to another story. Now our next story comes from the Am I the Arsehole Here subreddit. Has a couple of updates attached to it that says, am I the arsehole here for confronting my girlfriend about attending male strip shows without telling me? I, 28 male, and Jen, 26 female, have been dating exclusively for 2 years and living together for 6 months. We live in a college town. We both earned our computer science degrees, but we didn't know each other in college. Jen is the classic cute nerd who loves playing video games and is a huge fan of Doctor Who. Jen has a good college friend, Amber, with whom she goes out with maybe once every 4 to 6 weeks. Usually it's something low-key like a movie or dinner and drinks. Many times it's during the week, not the weekend. I've never thought anything of it because I've never had a reason to. Plus sometimes Jen comes home really horny and wants to have sex as soon as she stumbles through the door. But other times she texts me to say she's going to crash at Amber's place. A few nights ago, Jen and Amber had a girls' night. She told me they were going to see a late movie and maybe grab some drinks after. Jen came home around 11 PM, tipsy but not drunk, and basically jumps me in bed. We went at it until she fell asleep around 1 AM. When I went to turn her light off, I noticed a pop-up on her phone with a QR code ticket pass for something called Men in Motion. I googled it. It's a traveling show with male strippers and travels around the country and puts on male strip shows. And yes, the ticket was for a show tonight. Jen and I don't have an open phone policy, but I knew her password and I was more than curious. I checked her Eventbrite app ticket history and it looks like she's gone to a lot of these shows. I also looked at her phone and found a folder with 100 pics of her with male dancers wearing not a lot of clothing. I'm struggling with the idea that Jen enjoys watching hot naked men dance and has been hiding it from me. I feel inadequate and uneasy about the situation. Although there's no evidence she cheated, there have been 2 nights she didn't come home that matched the dates of the shows. Yeah, I have a good memory. It makes me wonder if something more is going on. I've always trusted Jen, and I don't want to accuse her of anything without evidence. However, this whole situation is making me uneasy. How do I bring this up to her without making her feel like I don't trust her? And how do I deal with a nagging feeling that even more may have happened? Would I be the arsehole here if I confronted her about this? So Alarm Dad comes straight into the comments and says, I don't know what these other commenters are talking about. Strip club aside, she and her friend are liars. They cannot be trusted. That is everything in a relationship. Even if you confront her, how are you supposed to believe anything she says? Opie says, yeah, pretty sure she's straight up lied to me a few times. Alarm Dad replies saying, you should take her and her friend out for lunch and ask them when's the next time the traveling strippers are coming around. Ask them what the lie will be next time. A knitting class? FS Mert says, that's not a very strong foundation for a lifetime romantic relationship, regardless of whether the topic is sex, shows, money, or anything really. Think hard about whether this person is right for you. Opie responds saying that everything else in our relationship was fine. I've even been thinking about the next phase. Yeah, I know. This sucks, and I think I know what I have to do. And many of the comments saying basically the same thing, especially about the lying. If you're lying, what else is there? What else is she hiding? Is it going to be trickle-truthing coming up? We shall find out. But Opie comes in with her first update and says, first, thank you for all the comments. It really helped me get my head on straight and realize I'd been gaslighting myself. The shock of knowing my nerdy Jen was regularly watching male strippers, along with low-key feelings of inadequacy. I'm okay looking, but I'm not ripped. Blinded me to the fact that the act of deception on her part was the bigger issue. Anyway, here is the update on what's happened. I knew I had to talk to Jen. At home Thursday evening, I told her I saw the ticket on her phone the night of the show and asked her why she lied to me that she was going to the movies. She was initially taken aback and defensive, but eventually apologized for not being upfront. She said that she and Amber just considered it fun and even a silly girls' night activity. Jen admitted that she kept it quiet from me because she wasn't sure how I would react and didn't want to make things awkward between us by even asking. It was just something fun and naughty. She admitted that this was not her first time attending a show like this, but she couldn't remember how many times in the past. Jen also said something I never thought of, that she felt safe going to these shows, as it was an all-women environment compared to bars and clubs where guys get drunk and hit on women. She reassured me that these shows were just to have fun and not about any dissatisfaction with our relationship. She said at least 3 times that she finds me attractive and was very satisfied with our sex life. She even said if it would help me process things, that she and I could go together to a club with female dancers. Neither of us have ever been to a strip club with female dancers, but thought it would be similar. I could see for myself that it was just naughty fun and we could experience it together. After a couple of hours, she grabbed my hand and took me up to the bedroom to assure me that I'm still the hottest man in her life. Next day, I was satisfied with her explanation. Jen didn't tell me how many times she had gone to these shows, but I chalked it up to her being embarrassed at me finding out and not wanting to hurt me anymore. I also didn't ask about the pictures. I didn't want her to know that I had looked at her phone and there really wasn't any smoking gun evidence of infidelity. But the next day, something still just felt off. Maybe me just questioning myself and my naivety up until this point. So I reached out to a mutual friend of ours, Kirsten. Kirsten was a part of Jen and Amber's college friend group, and I knew Kirsten casually from a few classes we had taken together. Kirsten and I weren't close at all, and I hadn't seen her since graduation, but we reconnected at her wedding a couple of years ago. The wedding was just around the time Jen and I became exclusive. Jen and Amber were both bridesmaids. Jen took me as a +1. As far as I knew, Kirsten and Jen didn't have much interaction after the wedding, which I assume was just normal for married people to lose contact with unmarried friends. I messaged Kirsten Saturday. I used the pretense that I was thinking of taking things to the next level with Jen, and that since she was the first person in the friend group that got married and that she knew Jen, that she could give me some advice. What she said next stunned me. She said that she didn't know that Jen and I were a couple, and that she hadn't spoken to Jen since the wedding. She also said we could meet up for a coffee so she can fill me in on some things in person, but not to tell Jen we were meeting. Holy fuck. We had coffee Sunday. Wow. Just fucking wow. Here's what she told me. I've written this chronologically so it makes more sense. According to Kirsten, Jen was a virgin until her 21st birthday. As a joke, Kirsten, Amber, and friends decided to hire a male stripper for Jen's birthday celebration. To everyone's shock, Jen really liked the stripper, and she lost her virginity that night. 2. Jen got the stripper's phone number, and Kirsten said they met up a few times after the party for what Jen called a special private show. Jen was unabashedly proud of this. 3. Jen became more interested in dancers and would go do things like suggesting Magic Mike for movie night. Other times she would comment on guys walking around campus, making comments about abs and biceps and saying, "I bet he looks good in a thong." 4. Jen had a serious boyfriend after college and before we met that I didn't know about. According to Kirsten, their relationship ended when the boyfriend discovered Jen in bed with, a stripper. Jen had gone to a male venue, hung out after the show, and she managed to pick up one of the dancers and took him home. The boyfriend ended up moving out of town for work, which is why I've never heard of him. The friend group knew about this mess and Kirsten figured Jen had learned her lesson. 6. At Kirsten's bachelorette party where Jen and Amber were bridesmaids, Kirsten had explicitly told them no strippers. Despite this request, Jen and Amber arranged for 2 strippers to show up, and all 4 of them ended up having a foursome. Kirsten was understandably furious with them hijacking her bachelorette and blatantly disrespecting her, and ended the friendship with Jen and Amber. Though she kept them in the wedding party because the wedding date was only a week away, and she didn't want word of this to get out and overshadow the wedding. Looking back, I remember the vibe of the wedding felt off, and this was why. I could tell Kirsten was still rightfully very pissed about the whole situation, and I said I deserved to know the truth. Over the course of an hour, I went from stunned to furious. I'll spare you the ugly details of Sunday evening, but I broke it off and told Jen she has until the end of the week to move out, She was crying, screaming, begging, but at this point I had enough and told her she could just fuck off and die. Among her excuses, there was nothing wrong with a woman liking hot men, and that it was all just a fantasy, no different than guys liking porn. It got her horny, and I got the benefit of it. I was being insecure. She really loved me and saw a future together, and this was something she could work through. Oh, she never slept with a stripper after Kirsten's bachelorette, and that debacle was early in our relationship and shouldn't count. But who the fuck knows? Jen will be sleeping in the spare room from now on, but I told her this is over. I will avoid her as much as I can until she moves out. I'm not worried about her doing psycho shit. I think she knows I will go nuclear and tell her parents and family the whole story if she tries anything. So, it's done. Thank you again for everyone who gave me the needed push to man up and confront this. 7 days later, OP comes in with another update and says thank you again for the support. Some of you asked for an update. Jen finished moving out Saturday. No drama. I mostly avoided her. She made some attempts at reconciliation, but I think she knew it was hopeless. Some of you made helpful suggestions to protect myself, but mostly weren't needed. I wasn't worried about her trashing the place. She's not crazy, she just got caught. She also knew that I would go nuclear if she tried any stunts. In all the years together, she has never seen me this pissed off. Hell, I'd never seen me this pissed off. I also wasn't worried about her trying to spin some story for sympathy. Our respective families live in different states. Our friend circles, what's left of hers, don't overlap. We work for different companies. There was no one for her to play a sympathy card on. Also, I wasn't worried about baby trapping, as I would never stick my dick in that again. Also, we're both well-paid IT professionals with plenty of disposable income and no desire to have kids. STD panel is clean. I did speak with Kirsten, former friend of Jen, to let her know what happened. One thing she said made me feel a bit better. She said that during and after college, Jen was actually pretty selective in who she dated and was not into the casual hookup culture, and probably hadn't been with more than 5 guys total before me. For the obvious exception, she had a hobby of fucking strippers. And yes, I know that sounds fucked up writing it, but she probably wasn't running around with a load of random hookups behind my back. So yes, I may have been naive, but not that naive. One of my friends said this whole thing reminded him of stories about men with loving wives and families who have some kink that can only be satisfied by hiring street hookers. Losing her virginity to a stripper may have done something to Jen's psyche that could only be satisfied with some jacked dude with oiled muscles dancing in a thong. Not my problem anymore. I'm doing as okay as I can be in this situation. I'm not really depressed because I'm still pissed off about the whole situation. At some point, I may go to a strip club, just to see what they're all about. And the top comment on that update said the best predictor of future behavior is past behaviors. OP, you dodged a bullet. Don't think for a minute that our recent post-show sleepovers were not what she said. She wasn't crashing at Amber's. The fact that she went away relatively quietly suggests that she's been caught and was trying to minimize the damage. You deserve better. There's someone out there for you. Best wishes. Gee whiz with a holy moly on top. What do you guys make of this situation? Let us know your thoughts down in the comments below. Now, just a huge thank you from the bottom of my heart for getting involved in today's stories. Your love, your support, your time always means the absolute world to me. So thank you so much. And hopefully I'll see you cheeky so-and-so, in the next one. Take care and much love.
Yeah, man, I remember being so naive when life was good, weather and palm trees. Back in the day, you were everything I need. But then along came a time when you crushed my dreams. Oh yeah, you played me like a fool when you made me believe that the line between love wasn't thick enough to read. Oh yeah, you see we in despair, crime everywhere. You're selling false hope cause you just don't care. Nah, you just don't care. Nah, you just don't.